So what are y'all hearing? What are you seeing? What's happening?
I liked when Amber posted the weekly stats today. That was really quite interesting to see how many went under contract versus how many were listed.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to watch. Extremely interesting. What else? So here's kind of my thoughts on all that. And I said this a while ago, and I'm just going to say it again, because I firmly believe that the only reason we're not selling more houses is because we don't have more listings. Even today, I just pulled up the last 7 days, 1,943 listings and 2,001 under contracts. We're still outpacing our listings, even at 2,000 a week, which is a pretty quick clip. And I think we've got an opportunity right now. It's kind of that rare moment where, because we've got such a peak demand, those sellers that are coming on and priced right and show well are going to go under contract. And then my concern, if you really want to know my truth, as I've been watching the market, listening to Gary and Jay and kind of what they've been talking about as well, is once we start to see all this government assistance dry up and we start to see the rest of us get to go back to work and actually fight to hold on to our businesses and put it all together, we're going to see, it's going to be interesting. June, July, August, if we'll see how this whole economy thing recovers and how quickly it recovers, how quickly life gets back to quote unquote normal, if you want to call it that. I don't foresee that happening quickly. And yet, what does that do to the broader based businesses, right? I mean, I don't see our energy sector bouncing back anytime soon from $1.50 a gallon, $1.40 a gallon right now. I don't see the airlines bouncing back anywhere to what they did. It took them almost 3.5, 4 years to get to peak capacity after the last recession. So I don't know if it'll take that long this time around. However, who knows? So it's going to be interesting to see how many of those different industries are impacted, and then what that does to us. The benefit that we have this time around is we've got equity, we've got smart buyers, we've got programs available to help those buyers out and those homeowners out that may be in trouble, and to sustain them through this piece. However, the question is, does it start to limit our buyer pool if 10 or 15% of those folks are unemployed for the next 6 months? So that's my take on the economy and the market and the 2 cents of my world. What do y'all think? So what makes this work is it's participatory. I can stand on a pedestal all day and preach. However, I feel like I've already done that all day with Bold and everything else I've been doing. So
I feel you're absolutely hitting the nail on the head. I think it's going to be a real slow recovery. And today we even hear that JCPenney's is filing for a bankruptcy protection. Yep. So, another retailer is out of business. So, yeah, it just is going to be a domino effect. So,
well, and here's the funny thing. And again, this could be Jake just being a jerk. And yet, does JCPenney's going out of business surprise any of us? I
think they've been trying to go out of business for a long time.
I agree, right?
They've tried, they've revamped their business model a number of times over the last few years. And so I think this was finally the catalyst, right, for them to just say, we're done, we can't do it anymore.
Yep. Well, and it was interesting hearing Gary talk about this a little bit just a half hour ago, because you look at stores like JCPenney's that they never really made that transition into the digital side of the world. right? If you wanted something from JCPenney's, you went and found their brick and mortar store, and that's where you bought it. I think the companies that are going to struggle are those right now who haven't made that transition, because we all have been forced to go to that overnight. I mean, all of a sudden Amazon is going to town, right? They're so busy that they have to take non-essentials, and instead of doing 2-day or 3-day delivery, they're pushing it out over the course of 2 or 3 weeks to see when they can fit in those deliveries, and only making sure they're getting the essentials out because they're so busy. I don't know, how the rest of that's going to look. We'll see. However, I truly believe if they haven't made that shift or that transition, that's where the challenges are going to show up.
Well, and I also think this is, I might have said this on a previous call, maybe one of the team meetings or so, that I think it's just crucial to kind of control what we can control.
Yep.
I mean, it's, there's been several times where I've done outreaches through various creative ways or so, whether to Sphere or to past clients or to, my neighborhood or so. And sometimes people don't respond. And honestly, I used to kind of get bent out of shape about that, or bummed out, like, oh my gosh, why? But you know what? I did the behavior, and people are busy, and who knows what people are dealing with. But I feel good about the fact that at least, whatever we're trying, or whatever different creative ways we're trying to just stay out there as best as we can, that the result really, to me, doesn't matter. It's just a matter that I'm doing the behaviors, because if not, I would be really bummed out that, oh my gosh, I've called 48 of my past clients and I only had 6 that called me back, or I texted a bunch of people and I texted 25 people and I only had 4 people text me back. And it's there's 2 different ways you can look at that, and I just choose to look at it as, hey, I'm just doing the behaviors and I'm going to keep doing them, and it's okay.
Yeah. Well, and you totally nailed it. We don't know what they're going through. We don't know where they're at. We don't know what's going on. And it's easy for us to go to judgment, or it's easy for us to go to curiosity or frustration if we're not hearing back. And then we would create a story. The reality of it is, who cares? As long as you put it, we're doing that, our job, we're reaching out, we're doing it with the right heart and the right intention. That's the key. And people know that, especially for a business like you, Bud, where a lot of your business was built on open houses, face-to-face, the door knocks, all of that. You've had to shift pretty hard in a market like today. And it's, what do we control versus what do we not? We've got top agents that are having their best months and their best year ever right now. And we've got others that are sitting back getting frustrated because they don't know where to go. And I think the opportunity is ours just to start to move, right, in any direction. So, Bud, can I ask you a couple questions on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
What have you done to shift that focus? Because again, you were open houses, you were face-to-face, you were door knocks, you were client events. So how have you shifted that to continue to grow your business?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I literally, for the last, 50 days or so, have had to really kind of reinvent my business, because, 90% of my business comes from door knock and open house. I've done mailings, teamed up with my lender to do a mailing to a barbecue joint, pretty good savings off a barbecue, sent out about 400. And, I've done, and you might have heard already, I did a kind of an Easter Bunny boondoggle event where we dressed my daughter up in an Easter Bunny costume and drove all over. For 8 hours, we drove all over town, making stops. I'm going to do text all of my clients or my sphere that are moms on Sunday, kind of late morning, early afternoon, just, hey, happy Mother's Day, just thinking about you, hope you have a great day. So much of this stuff really has nothing to do with real estate. It's just, one of my favorite expressions, I might have said it before, is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Exactly.
And even just in the last couple of days, I'm like, okay, what can I do? And, and this is a good example of just what I was talking about. I've kind of put out on Nextdoor and put out in my neighborhood and on Facebook that I would be doing a food drive, to pick up food from people's front porches and to bring it to the Douglas County Food Bank. And, there really hasn't been any response. And so it's like, well, here's the great news is at least I tried, and I'm going to have 4 or 5 people out of, a couple hundred that I wish, were donating food or just putting 2 cans of beans on their front porch and I pick them up and deliver them. But you know what? It's okay because at least the behavior was there. And once again, it has nothing to do with real estate, but just, I think, if you lead with your heart now, I think I heard Gary say this week on one of the life events or so, that if you lead with your heart, that the business will follow. So that's probably a long answer, Jake, but just, I've really had to, I can't door knock and I can't open house. And so I've really had to find creative ways to keep in touch with Sphere, database, past clients, farm, and then my neighborhood. Sometimes not hearing back from people, but that's okay because at least the behaviors are done. Yep. Does that answer your question? Is that
100%? So, and that's what I really was hoping you'd go down the path of, is because it's easy for us to say, hey, I can't do that anymore, so I'm just going to buckle down and wait. Well, how long are we going to wait for? And I think that's the danger that many of us could fall into, is we say, you know what, I'm going to buckle down, we'll wait it out, we'll muscle it out, we'll see what happens, and once this is all cleared up, then I'll get back to normal. Who knows what normal is going to be? Again, go back to what we were just talking about. We've got retailers, we've got restaurants, we've got some of these huge chains right now that, because they haven't adapted and they hadn't really put forth those systems to adapt, they're the ones that are in the biggest troubles, right? So JCPenney's going out, Nordstrom's is having to shut down some of their big stores because they never really adapted to this digital universe that we're operating in. And it's not a matter of, hey, you just need to be here, because even Amazon said, hey, I understand I can't just be online, and they started to open up some stores. However, it was all about creating the experience, right? And what Gary's been saying, which I really appreciate, is we're going to be digitally based. This is becoming more of an accepted piece. I don't know about y'all, me and Zoom, we're like this, man, we're getting it figured out. And yet our clients are going to do the same thing. We're getting to a point now, on our team, where we're setting up conversations, we're having the dialogues, we're stimulating a conversation and opening up a thought, right? Well, hey, is this something that you have other friends that may want to know more about? And it could be budgeting, it could be investing, it could be first-time home ownership, it could be, you name it. And so it's not just a one-to-one dialogue. We're able to open that up. And then that evening, we host an investor seminar for you and 8 of your buddies. Well, all we're doing in that situation, number one, we're pouring into you, we're educating. Yet the flip side to that is we're allowing you to go invite your friends into that dialogue. So now you're the connector. And at the same time, it works for us because we're expanding the database and we're expanding those relationships. So it's how can we work this together to accelerate the purpose of it? Again, we've been coaching this a lot throughout the course of the last week with the bold pivot thing, is how are we helping folks expand the database today? Right? How are we leveraging our database to go, again, expand the database even further? And it's just by opening the door and utilizing the technologies that we have as a tool and as the gift, versus saying, well, we'll do that later, when I can get back out and door knock, when I can get back out and do open houses, when I can get back out, and who knows when that's going to be. So again, how do we prepare today to continue to be in a digitally enhanced methodology, right? Where this becomes more of a norm, becomes more efficient. And yet what you're doing, Bud, is you're taking this and then you're making it human. Hey, I'm going to pop by and do this. The Easter Bunny thing I heard about, phenomenal, right? And it's how do we give people that connectivity that they want in a world where we're not necessarily getting it? What else? I think Gary said it best when he said, the agent that's going to win in tomorrow's economy is an agent who's embraced the digital economy that we're operating in and figured out how to make it personal. So how to bring the person, the relationship to the digital. So it's not that we're always going to be here. It's how am I going to be here and yet turn around and create that relationship outside of this so that I'm not just a person on a screen. Because the lights and the makeup look good. When the makeup comes off.
Well, and I think also just to wrap up one of the things is, how do we do all these things without spending a ton of money?
Exactly.
It's on Sunday, I'm going to spend an hour and a half just sitting, in my backyard or something and just texting people, moms and that doesn't, other than 2 hours of my time, it doesn't cost me a dime to do that.
Yep.
And that's something I think also as we watch our expenses, to find fun, creative ways to come up with ideas or so, that you can at least reach people or try to show people kind of your heart or so, without being like, oh my gosh, I got to spend X amount of dollars on this promotion or that promotion. It's, even handwritten notes or, the cost of a, piece of paper and a stamp or something. It's just another way to maybe, reach people.
100%. Yeah, it's going to become more efficient, more dollar efficient, and it's going to allow us to do a lot more. Again, it comes back to it's forcing us to get more real. We don't have the ability anymore to hide behind an email or a mailer or a newsletter. We actually have to be that human, and yet I think that human touch is also what's going to make the difference for those of us who are doing it. So let me throw another question at you, and it's a curveball. Gary's been saying double down on lead gen, double down on this, double down on that. We talked about it this week in Bold Pivot that we're going to make 40 contacts a day. Talk to me about that. How are we doing?
All my coffee people better have an answer. We talked about this morning.
I have not made 40 a day outside of my goal right now is on Mondays. I want to focus on a 100. And then the rest of the week, Tuesday through Friday, focus on 25 a day. So that's what I've been doing, and I've been staying pretty much on track.
Perfect. And that gets you to 200 a week, which is perfect.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Well, we had pop buys already set up for this week, so we're doing like 10 a day, which honestly has been a stretch to even do 10 because people are so excited to see somebody at their front door that each one of them is taking like half hour to 45 minutes.
So true. So true. Yep. That will take a little bit longer. So the question becomes, what are some of the other activities you could do around that to reach more than 10 outside of the pop buys, right?
You can. I would say if you and Tracy are going together, have her text other clients while you're in the car or call other clients while you're driving from house to house.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's one thing. Andrea, great job. She says she hasn't done 40 a day. She's done 64 this week, and that's 3 times what she's been doing. And that's the key. So, and that's really what I want you all to hear. And this is what we've been coaching people on all week and privately in other sessions is it's not about 40 a day. Because let's be real, if you're not used to doing 20 a day, then double up what you're doing. So if you were doing 20 in a week, then go do 40 or 50 or 60 in the week. And then next week, do it again, right? And just slowly build that process up. However, get better every day is really the concept. The flip side to that is sometimes we look at this whole thing and we go, there's just no way. And I think that there's always an opportunity and always a possibility. We just have to find it. So I was coaching one of the gals off the Facebook page today. I just reached out to her last night and said, hey, can we chat? So she and I connected this morning, and we were talking, and she was telling me about her world, right? She's got kids similar to my kids' age, which I'm sure y'all can hear screaming upstairs right now because it's that time of day. And yet they're doing their thing. She's like, man, I think she was the one that posted yesterday on the pivot page that She watched the pivot live stream, and by the time she was done, the kids had torn apart the bed to make a table. Yeah, so I had the opportunity to have a conversation with her. I asked her if the table worked, and that's a whole nother conversation. And yet, here's what I helped her understand. I said, look, it's about setting up a way to be able to do this on your time, not putting 4 hours into your schedule and prospecting for 4 hours straight. Because I'll be honest, I can't tell you the last time I prospected for 4 hours straight. So the flip side, though, is do we make 40 contacts all the time? So what I coached her on, and this is what I wanted to share with you all today, and it was just a nugget as we were talking through it, is I said, so what could you do to control your day? And it was just, the questions you ask create a great response. And she kind of thought through it, and we worked through that question, and she finally came back. She says, what I could do is I could text and Facebook message 40 people in the morning at the breakfast table. And it's just a quick text, so we scripted it all out. And basically what she was saying was based on who it was. It would be, hey, how you doing? I was thinking about you this morning over breakfast. Or just wanted to check in. I was thinking about you over breakfast. Simple text, right? And what she realized and what her aha was is if she did that with 40 people, what naturally would happen through the course of the day? They would all start to respond back. Oh, and then because it was through text, based on what was going on in her world, it gave her the ability to respond back when it was appropriate, or reach back out and say, hey, do you mind if we have a quick conversation? I'd love to catch up. My kids are quiet for 12 seconds. And it wasn't a matter of how are you going to go do 4 hours? It was how can we help you contact 40 people a day and get in dialogue with 40 people a day? And it was a really cool aha for her. And then we ended the conversation. I said, so we're at the end of May, and what happens, right? And I ask you all this question today. And this is what I want you to think about as we kind of move forward is we're at the end of May. What would you like to have accomplished by the end of this month to say that was an incredible May, or I won that month? What's that outcome? And it's different for each of us, right? For some of us, it might be adding contacts to a database. For some, it might be getting deals under contract. For some, it may be taking X amount of listings. Whatever it is, what's the outcome that you expect in May so you can say, I won. I killed May. It was awesome. So what do you say?
For me personally, I want that first domino to fall.
And what's the first domino for you, Jim?
Just to get one under contract. I really just need to do that.
There you go. So what has to happen between now and the end of the month to help you get one under contract?
Well, I've gone through my entire database, just doing what we're talking about. I've gone through and I've contacted people. I've made a lot of lunch dates for when this is all over. It's kind of amazing how that's happened to people I haven't contacted for a while. But actually, one thing I'm doing this weekend, I'm going to go out with, I got a bunch of paper bags, a whole stack of them from King Soopers. I'm going to put a little note on it with my address and phone number about the Red Day and just collecting non-perishable food items. And just going from that, just donate to the task force so I can just kind of take it around the whole neighborhood and just kind of drop them off and not actually make contact with people, but make contact with people.
Yeah. Perfect. So it's just another way to continue to expand that piece out. Who else? Who else wants to dive in? What would allow you to say, hey, I May was a month, man. I nailed it. What's the outcome you're looking for?
I'll go.
Go for it.
So 2 listing appointments and then 6 gross.
There you go. So 2 and 6.
Yep.
So what has to happen to help you get 2 and 6? Where do you got to be? What's got to happen to make that happen?
it all has come back down to my schedule and not getting distracted, because that's easy. It's an easy distraction.
So,
And so,
go for it.
oh, I was just gonna say it's I have recurring things on my calendar, and I've been writing it down, and then having a plan, and then not getting distracted in the middle of it. So just being dedicated and motivated, and then scheduling in time for the distractions, because that's what I wasn't doing.
That's the key. Well, and that the cool part about that is when you have your calendar, your schedule, your ideal world, this is what I want it to look like, and then you keep track of everything that you actually do, you start to see, okay, what was a distraction, right? Or a time suck or a time waster, and what's something that I actually need to schedule, right? Because now I know this is going to show up, and I do need to plan time for it. So, it's just knowing the difference between the two, and then having, for some of us, it's giving yourself a win and rewarding yourself with that little time waster for a bit. Just don't get sucked all the way into it so that you don't come out. So,
And I've started implementing my win the day again too, and
tell
I love
everybody
it.
about that, Angela. What's your win the day?
It's 2 appointments every single day, and I'm not done until I win my day, period.
So how do you make sure you get 2 appointments every day?
What's funny about it is that in the mornings when I'm calling and doing things, I don't know if it's that my mindset changes when I work better under pressure, and when it gets to the end of the day, it just happens, because I've determined that it's going to happen. In the mornings, I'm like, oh, calling people, and it's not as critical. And then I can get 2 appointments in 30 minutes when I know that my day is about to be over, and I don't have my 2 appointments yet.
Isn't it amazing what a little bit of focus and a lot of stress will do for some of us?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not going to not get my 2 appointments. So
Good stuff.
yeah. So, and that's been very recent again. And when I was doing it before, it was the exact same way. I'd be like, oh crap, it's 4:00. I need to text my coach at 5:00, and I don't have my appointments yet. And they'd show up. Sometimes they'd walk in the door, and there's no doors for them to walk in right now. And it can be them calling me back. It can be a lot of different things.
Yeah, there's other ways for us to create that virtual door.
Mm-hmm.
And create that attraction, right? And that's the other thing I would tell folks is take a look at what's going on with the online lead generator piece, because there's some great opportunities there as you guys start to maximize and start to get good at it, of what you're able to do with that. And if you haven't done it yet, there's a really cool opportunity that KW worked together with Facebook on, where if you do $100 ad spend, you get $25 off of it. Is that right, Amber? Is that how that works?
It's 75. So if you spend $75, you can get, it's basically only cost you $50. So you could do the same thing where if you were going to spend $75, you can basically get $100 worth of ad money for the $75.
Yep.
And it's on one campaign. So you can't spread it out over multiple, and it has to be a new one. So if you have a campaign running, it won't apply to that one. You have to start a new campaign.
And yet that conversation is there and that opportunity is there for you guys to take advantage of, especially right now. So all sorts of fun. So what are your aha so far? What are you taking away?
So Jake, there's also a new Facebook update on Messenger where you can invite people to rooms on Messenger. And this is a good opportunity to get a group of people together to talk about, where the market is, where the mortgage market is, et cetera, et cetera. And it's it works kind of like Zoom, but you can do this with your Facebook people. So yeah, you could host a gathering of sorts, right, with your Facebook people. Anybody who's interested, has questions about what's happening in the market, you post that on your Facebook page and invite people through Messenger.
Huh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So just another way to play the game.
Yep.
Good. By the way, I shared the 40 contacts piece. I knew where we were going with that when I was having that coaching conversation, because that's what I've had to do sometimes. Be it on the road or doing what I was doing. That was the only way I was going to ensure I got to the contacts I had to make, was by just knocking them out early. Copy, paste, change the name, make it personal, go. And take a half hour, blast 40 of them out that way. And it's awesome what happens through the course of the day.
Or use command and do it all at once.
You can do that. Yes, you can. I would personalize it based on, if there's a conversation we're having, you name it, stuff like that. If they just come back from vacation, or if I know.
Well, it really depends on what the message is, right?
Yeah,
if it's a red day invite, it can be very standard. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Good. So that's really the invitation, as we kind of bring this whole thing to a close today. More than anything else, is sit down and journal this weekend. What is it you want May to look like? What does it you want June to look like? And how do you create that win out of it? Because I don't care what happens in this economy. I don't care where it goes. You're looking at a guy who closed 87 transactions in 2010 in his first full calendar year because of the economy. And we just figured out how to work it when everybody else decided to wait for it to get better. It's not because I'm good, not because I'm lucky. It's just because we put our head down and found the opportunities, right? And our market today is the same way. As Bud was telling us, his world got blown out of the water. And yet he's found, he didn't go commiserate. He didn't go hide. He didn't say, I'll wait. He said, how can I reconnect in today's world, in today's economy, so that we can still stay connected to these folks that he cares about? Right? Every one of us has those opportunities in our own way. And it could, in my world, it's done through education, it's done through knowledge, it's done through teaching. And that's what we focus on with our database. And that's been a huge thing in our world. Honestly, I was on a call this morning with the North Florida region. I was on a call last week with the Tri-States region, which is New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, obviously Colorado. I've been on that one weekly. And just through those conversations, I was on one for the Minneapolis area, have yielded almost 3 referrals a week just from being in those situations and educating, right? So that's one of the things that we do. So find your niche, find what works for you, especially in today, and go nail it.
Hey, Jake, some of these people weren't on your call yesterday. Will you talk to them about what you're working on in St. Louis right now?
Which part?
Oh, funny. No, but talking about those opportunities, I think it's helpful to know some of the things that have come out for you for that.
I taught both in St. Louis. I've stayed in connection with the Midwest region. I've done a handful of calls for them as well through the course of the last 3 or 4 weeks. And an agent reached out to me just to get some coaching. She was thinking about launching a property management company. So I spent some time on the phone with her and walked her through just some of the concepts she needs to look at before she decides to jump all in with it. Learned a little bit about her business. And then through the course of what my father and I are doing, we've got a property that we're liquidating. It's the right time for us. It's probably the right time for somebody else to pick up that unit. And we're going to take the money and go have some fun with it. And so I reached out to her yesterday and just said, hey, she does flips in kind of like the Aloha area in Denver. It's a historic area that is up and coming in St. Louis, and we're just running through the numbers and the data. And she's like, look, I can probably take your 300 grand and every 4 months turn it into about 450 to 500,000. Okay, let's go. Right. I mean, the question becomes, how fast can we get started? And all that's just due to education, doing what I do and doing what I'm passionate about. So I tell you that, and thanks for having that, bringing it up, Ambers, because we never know where the opportunities show up. However, if we put ourselves out there, if we find what we're passionate about, the doors will start to open, right? I've been doing the investor side for so long. We've got a huge portfolio of investors that we work with. Obviously, we manage 100+ doors, and we do all sorts of those pieces. And through those dialogues and conversations, people show up in our world. And, you know, a mentor of mine a few years back said, there's going to come a point where you have to start saying no to opportunities, not because it's not a good opportunity, because there's a better one around the next corner. And they'll start to show up in your world in a pace where you'll have to start to figuring out, what do you say yes, what do you say no to? And it's starting to happen. You know, and it's really interesting because now I get to go to my wife and say, hey, there's this, or this, and what do you want to do? And now, based on her risk tolerance and what she feels comfortable with, we get to go take a move and take a look. So she's feeling a lot more engaged with that conversation. It's, again, all of this started in 2010 when we got into short sales, became one of the top short sale teams in the state, started teaching across the state, had the only 12-hour, 2-day course certified by the state. And that's all we did. And through that educational course, we received referrals after referrals from agents that didn't want to do the work. And I don't blame them. You know, what we had put together, it was structured as such. And then the flip side to all of that is, as we continue down that path, we've always stayed engaged. We've always educated. That's why I'm passionate about what I do with Bold. That's why we do this. That's why myself and my other 2 partners are KW certified, and working towards master faculty, because we truly believe that as we pour out into the community, it'll grow our other businesses.
For those of you who didn't catch that, that's sign language for it's noisy upstairs.
It's very noisy. Like World War II's happening, and when you have boys in World War II, sometimes that ends in fist fights and cuss words. So I apologize in advance. Anyway, that's kind of my platform. That's my piece. And today is a perfect opportunity for y'all to figure that out. And we're in a market. It's a transitioning market. It's a transforming market. It allows us to really step up and figure out what we're doing next and who we're going to become through this. And this is that time to do so, because who knows how long we're here? Who knows what this looks like in 6 months? All I know is that if we embrace it and we run with it, we're going to create huge opportunities and huge wins and take care of a whole lot of people in the process. And it's going to be fun.
I do love your house, Jake. It's great.
That was the other thing I was coaching around. I'm like, look, don't worry about it. People hear my kids scream all the time. Yeah. So a funny side note, since we're there, it might have happened. I was on the call with the Tri-States region, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and literally full-on fist fight upstairs breaks out with my 16-year-old, my 20-year-old, my 2 sons. And it's screaming, it's yelling, it's like stomping around, it's F-bombs left and right. I was a proud father in that moment with 280 agents on that call. It was fun. And yet, guess what? We're all in it.
Were they asked to mute because they can hear their kids in the background, like what happened when you were on the phone with California?
Yeah, they asked. They're like, "Hey, there's noise in the background. Could you mute if your house is noisy?" And I was like, "That's me." That's my kids. Love you. Anyway, What questions do you have here as we wrap up our time together? What are your ahas from the conversation today?
Hey, Jake, I have a question on the 40 calls a day.
Yes, go.
So can we do it in 2 days if we get the same productivity? I would rather do it all in 2 days and get it over with. And call the 200. Call the 200
days?
Right.
Sure. I mean, the intention is 200 a week.
Okay.
So we break it down to 40 a day just because sometimes that's more palatable. However, I mean, I know my team, typically we're doing 60 to 80 dials a day. So
Okay.
it's more of a benchmark than anything else. And if you want to clear it out in 2 days because you find that to be more productive and it fits your calendar, go for it.
Cool.
Go for it. Yeah. 100%. Yeah, it's and that's the thing. It's a benchmark. So it's understanding that we're not all going to go to the gym and lift and bench press the same amount. Obviously, I mean, these packs aren't really doing a whole lot of bench pressing right now, and yet each of us have a different flexibility and a different stamina based on how we've operated in the past. All we're saying is take that rubber band and stretch it, right? And see how far you can push it, especially today, because that's what's going to help you get launched into this next market.
Cool. Thank you.
Rock and roll. Hey, bud, thanks for letting me pick on you a little bit today and answering those questions. I think it was a great example of what we're talking about. And as always, if there's anything else we can do to help support, whatever, let the offices know and we'll get it on the calendars for you. We're here to support you. We're here to help you grow your businesses. We've got relationships across the country, obviously. So if there's something you're looking for that we don't have here local, we can find them, we can bring them in. But
hey, Jake, on that point, I talked to Patrick about this last week as well. I think, some of us are single agents, some of us are teams, but what I think would really be helpful, and I know these people are out there, is like, how does somebody go from like 30 sides a year to 60?
uh-huh.
I mean, like, listen, I'm a huge fan of Chris Suarez and Ben Kinney and all these megas, and I'm on every call they're on and follow them on Facebook. But at least for me, and I did say something to Patrick, and just the last last week or so, but just if you know of somebody around the country who's maybe a single agent or has one other person, be like, okay, I had hit a ceiling of 35 sides a year or whatever. And then because I did the following, that took my business to 50 to 70 sides. It just, for me, I could relate to that more than we did 998 million in closed volume and 300,000 sides. And there's nothing, I mean, those people are incredible, but I think a lot of our agents, I think would benefit greatly from, and also somebody
single agent doing 60, 70 transactions a year,
who also has not been in the business for 38 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because after a while, I'm learning just by length of time, you're gonna do business.
Yeah, naturally.
So somebody who's maybe, hey, I've been doing this for 10 years or 15 years, and also somebody who has a pretty good profit margin.
Yes.
Because, that's crucial for me. It's not what you make, it's what you keep. And so just a thought. I know those people are out there, and if you could, get somebody on the next 2 or 3 weeks or so.
Let me reach out. I've got a friend of mine in Portland. I coached her last year in Bold, and that's exactly what she's done. She actually moved to Portland and in 3 years built a business doing 60 transactions a year as an individual agent in a city she'd never lived in. So let me get a hold of her and see if we can't bring her in. It could be for Jake's Take on a Friday. It could be as a special guest midweek. Let me see what I can do to get that scheduled for us, though. That's a great request. That'd be awesome. Cool. Anything else? Game on. All right. Hey, y'all have a great weekend. Go enjoy. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your family. Enjoy the sunshine. There's a ton of houses coming on the market. Go get your share because people are selling. Time to go. Awesome. Rock and roll. Have a great day, y'all.